Hey guys, this is Mr. Sepulveda. If you're watching this video, that means you are part of my digital summer art camp. And so if you are using the free program Krita, then this video is going to go over all the basic tools that you'll most likely use on a regular basis as you're using this particular software. Okay, so let's go ahead. Let's get started. When you click on the new file option, they give you a variety of different templates to use. Right here, we're going to just use a custom document. You'll see everything is set up in pixels. We can change it to inches, centimeters, or whatnot. Here, they give you predefined canvas sizes, right? But for the sake of this video, we are just going to use a 2000 by 2000. And right here, I want you to pay attention to the resolution. All your art pieces should be at a minimum of 300 DPI, or dots per inch, okay? So we're going to go ahead and create this. Right here is our canvas with those dimensions. That 2000 by 2000 pixels is obviously a square. If I shut off the background, then you saw that I went transparent. And so we've got layers on the right hand side. So right now I'm on my paint layer 1. Right above it is my color wheel, right? You are able to change your colors around. But if you don't like this triangle here, because I'm not a fan of the triangle, some people love it, you have different options here to choose from. I'm a big fan of like a square. And so I'm going to go ahead and choose this third option right here, right? This down here, if you click on them, they give you different pieces of information that describes the saturation and whatnot, but I'm just going to go ahead and click on this first one and just leave it at the setting that it is. I'm going to choose my blue color. Down below, we've got all of these different options for brushes, okay? If I click on the All button and I start scrolling, you guys can see there's a lot of brushes that come with the Krita program, right? So right now, I want you to kind of look at this, right? So I've got a bunch of paint brushes. Well, if I hover over it, then it's going to tell me what kind of brushes they are, what they do. They kind of show you a little imagery above them, right? So if you're a painter, this program is going to be perfect, right? For sketching, they'll give you different options as well, just like if you're going to be using charcoal or chalk, or if you need a blending stick, things like that. Krita's got those options for you. And so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to choose just a regular sketch pencil to kind of get me started. Okay, sometimes they'll tell you if they're hard, if they're sharp. They'll tell you if it's an HB or if it's an H pencil, right? So lighter or darker. So I'm going to choose this one right here because I think this one will be a nice, good pencil to kind of show you. You have your size over here, like this area where you can kind of shift between sizes if you want your cursor to be a little bit bigger or if you want it to be a little bit tinier. But you can also manipulate the opacity, and opacity just means how transparent do you want your tool to be, right? So if you noticed, I put the opacity at 100%, and so the pencil comes out a little bit darker. One of your best friends in digital art is going to be that undo button. It's your shortcut for Control Z or Command Z, depending if you're using a Mac or not. Right here, I'm changing the layer's name. So let's say we're going to work on a rough sketch, right? So this is kind of different than what you would do normally with like paper pencil, right? Or it might be about the same thing. So right here, I'm just going to go ahead and just sketch a or a rough image of a face for a character, right? The reason I'm doing this is because when you do digital art, you can rough out a lot of the basics for like your character art or your landscaping designs or whatever, right? Whatever you're interested in. And then you can go ahead and clean it up on top of these rough lines. And so that's why I'm calling this a rough sketch. This is not going to be perfect. I'm just, for the sake of this video, I'm just going ahead and moving as quickly as I can with just doing a sketch of a generic head. Okay. Alright, so this is looking okay. So once you have your rough sketch, the thing that you're going to want to do is create a new layer above it. So I'm just going to, and they give you different options here with the plus sign, but I'm just going to go ahead, I'm just going to continue leaving it as a paint layer. But before I do, I want to go onto that rough sketch layer and lower the opacity. So you'll notice, right, this is about 56%. This is 32%. I like the 32%. So I'm going to go ahead and change my color and go back to the layer above it. And you'll notice that if I click off that previous rough sketch layer, whatever I do above it isn't affected, or vice versa, right? Which is really good. You got the zoom ability, so you can zoom into your canvas, right? Really useful when working. I'm going through the inks brush presets, and so that's what I'm going to do right here. I'm going to mess around with this. And this is a nice thin line, but let's say I want to make it bigger, right? Then I can go ahead and just change the size of it, and I could either trace over it, or I could just erase everything and start again until I find the right size that I want, right? Now, I'm not going to make this super clean. I'm just trying to show you how to use the tools, right? And so I'm just going to go through this process as quickly as possible so I can show you what some of the other tools are. Now, real quick, let's say I want that shade, but I want to color that in completely. I'm going to use this freehand selection tool, right, that I've clicked on. I'm going to go into that area. I'm going to hover around the lines. Now that I have that, I can go right to my bucket tool, and I can click on it. And it's only going to fill in that selected area, but you'll notice those lines are there. So while I'm on the selection tool, if I just keep clicking, it'll eventually fill in all of those little corners, right? If I use that selection tool and click on the outside, it disappears, and then I can kind of go back in with my brush and kind of draw outside of that selection zone or that selection area. Okay, so that might be a nice fun tool for you to use, whether you're trying to color in hair, color in skin, or whatever. All right, that bucket tool is pretty good. That lasso tool is great. I personally use it in my Clip Studio Paint program. Okay, so we're finishing this guy up. All right, now what? Well, I can get rid of that rough sketch layer, and I can be like, oh, look how amazing this line work is, right? But we got other tools. We got movement tools, right, that we can use to drag around the area. Another tool that will be pretty useful is the one right next to it, and it's the one with the dot in the middle. It's a transform tool, and so you can use it to make your stuff scale nicely, or you can squish things in, make it narrow or make it wide. That transform tool is great, especially if you're trying to use things for like foreshortening and other things like that. Okay, so I think that's pretty nice. You have this pan tool, so you can move up and down and around your screen as you're drawing. Okay, this zoom tool is pretty cool, or this magnifying glass pretty cool, because you can go into a specific area by just highlighting over it. Other things that you guys have that's pretty cool and pretty neat is the fact that you can add text to your art, right? Above here, you guys have a list of various fonts that you guys can use. We'll just find one here that we could just pick out of. I like this one. This one looks pretty bold. And then this placeholder text, you can either highlight over it or you can hit the backspace button, whatever. And then just start kind of writing whatever you want to put down in here, right? So I'll just write down, hello, I am the guy in the picture, right? And then when you're done, you don't have to save it. You can save it if you really want to. However, if you just close out of it, what you'll find is the text is already on the screen. And so you can kind of maneuver that however you want, place it wherever you please. And so we'll just kind of leave them right here for the moment. Okay. And then let's see, what else can you do with your Krita or Krita software? Well, you do have some options here. So it does give you the ability to like create perfect squares or rectangles. You can make ellipses. You can make circles. They can be filled in. You can also use this polyline tool to just kind of make a random shape that you want to fill in, right? And it doesn't have to be anything special, right? They could just be as wonky and weird as you want. I like this kind of curve tool because it allows you to kind of manipulate these lines, and so you can do like a perfect arch for like an eye or curved hair or whatever, right? this is kind of cool too because you have a free form fill tool. This is almost like a lasso tool, so that free path is what I was talking about earlier, where you can kind of fill in the gaps for like the hair, and it'll fill in any which way that you want. So this would honestly be like my preferred way to fill in an area for let's say hair or skin or whatever it is that I'm coloring, or even shading in. It'll be a really useful tool to have, right? So let's hide these. Let's make a new layer real quick. And let me show you something called gradients. Gradients are really cool because you can kind of select your colors, you can toggle them around, and you can end up with some nice looking gradients for like a background that transitions from like dark to light or whatever you want it to be. So you can kind of see how it transitions or comes across from one color to the next. I think this is a really cool tool. It's a really interesting tool, and it's something that you might use to kind of make your characters or your landscape types of scenery pop out and stick out pretty nicely, I think. All right, boys and girls, so that's all the time we have for the basics. So if you guys have any questions or things that you want me to dive deeper on, please let me know, okay? I'll see you guys in the next class. Bye-bye.